The story I am about to share is neither simple nor conventional. It isn't the kind of narrative anyone would wish to experience, yet it delves into themes of family, challenging relationships, and fragile boundaries. Often, the things we take for granted can become elusive and confusing. This is the tale of my relationship with my daughter, Bella, a story of small, subtle changes that brought us to a place neither of us wanted to be. What led us here, and is there a way back? I invite you to join me on this journey. It began on a serene day, with the setting sun casting a warm, orange glow over the tall buildings in our quiet neighborhood. I was in the kitchen preparing dinner, the soft hum of the radio playing in the background. Bella had just returned from a weekend away at college, and the house felt peaceful, radiating the comforting sense of familiarity. Watching her now, I was reminded of how quickly she had grown. It felt like just yesterday she was a little girl, always by my side, asking endless questions about life. Now, at 21, she had blossomed into a confident, independent young woman. But along with her growth came an unintentional distance that I was still adjusting to. Dinner was ready, so I called her in. As we sat together at the table, I noticed her gaze lingering on me, intense enough to make me pause. At first, I brushed it off as my imagination. We talked about school, her friends, and how much she missed home, but something in her demeanor unsettled me. After dinner, we decided to watch a movie together, something we hadn't done in ages. The living room, dimly lit with soft cushions, felt unusually cozy that night. As the movie played, I found myself glancing at Bella more than I should, noticing how much she had changed. She was no longer the little girl I had raised, but a young woman. When she shifted closer to me on the couch, her hand brushed mine, sending a jolt of something unfamiliar and unsettling through me. Startled, I quickly pulled my hand away, but she noticed. "What's wrong, Dad?" she asked softly, her tone filled with concern. I dismissed her question with a simple, "Nothing, sweetheart." "I'm just tired," hoping she wouldn't notice the tension I felt. Yet, deep down, I knew something had shifted between us, a change that neither of us could ignore. That moment left the air thick with unspoken thoughts, and though we sat in silence as the movie played, neither of us paid attention anymore. Later that night, as I lay in bed, my mind raced with thoughts I couldn't define. I reminded myself of my role as her father and the importance of keeping clear boundaries. For both of our sakes, I resolved to maintain a distance and not allow these feelings to grow. The next morning, Bella greeted me warmly at the kitchen table, her voice carrying the same ease as always. She suggested we take a walk together, something we hadn't done in a long time. Though hesitant, I agreed, telling myself it was just a simple stroll between father and daughter. That afternoon, we drove to a park near our house, a place filled with memories of her childhood. The air was crisp, the sky clear, and for a moment, everything felt normal. We walked side by side, chatting about old memories, her future plans, and everyday topics. I found myself smiling more, feeling at ease for the first time since the night before. Perhaps I had overreacted, I thought. Maybe it had all been a passing moment of sensitivity. But as we walked further, there were stretches of silence that felt heavier than they should have, weighed down by unspoken thoughts and feelings I couldn't quite name. Eventually, we reached a clearing with a stunning view of a wide, open lawn. Bella paused and turned to me. "You've always been there for me," she said softly, her tone serious yet tender. "I don't know what I'd do without you." Her words struck a chord, and though I tried to smile, I found myself at a loss for words. In that moment, I felt both the weight of her trust and the complexity of the emotions that had been stirring within me. It was a bittersweet realization of how our relationship had evolved, leaving me to grapple with feelings I couldn't fully understand or explain. The vulnerability in her voice struck a deep chord within me, making my heart ache. I tried to smile, hoping to lighten the atmosphere. "Don't worry," I joked. "Dad isn't going anywhere." But Bella didn't smile. Instead, she stepped closer, her eyes locking with mine. "No, you're more than just my father. You're everything to me," she said. Her words hung in the air, heavy with meaning. I froze, unprepared to face the weight of her emotions. I studied her face, searching for any sign that she was being nostalgic, that this was just a typical moment between a father and daughter. But there was something in her gaze I couldn't ignore. "Bella," I whispered, my voice trembling, struggling to find the right words. "You know Daddy adores you, right? But not like that, not like this." Her voice grew heavy with emotion as she stepped closer. "I understand, but I can't stop thinking about you, Dad. I try to push it away, but it keeps coming back." My heart raced, my body frozen in place. This wasn't how a father and daughter should connect or look at one another. My mind screamed at me to back away, to stop this before it spiraled further, but I couldn't move. "We should go back," I said, my voice unsteady. "It's getting late." Before I could pull away, Bella reached out and gently touched my hand. The touch was innocent, but the way her fingers lingered against my skin sent a wave of discomfort through me. "It shouldn't feel like this, Dad," she murmured, her voice filled with an emotion I couldn't identify. "I know it's not right, but I can't control how I feel." Panic swelled within me as I pulled my hand away, stepping back. "Bella, we can't." "This is wrong, you're my daughter," I said, my voice breaking. "This isn't right, Bella. We can't do this." She stared at me, her expression a mix of hurt and determination. "I'm not confused, Dad. I know how I feel," she replied firmly. "No," I said, shaking my head, the ache in my chest growing unbearable. "This isn't right. You are my daughter, and we cannot cross this line." My voice faltered, unable to utter the words that felt too dangerous to speak aloud. Bella took another step toward me, her gaze fixed on mine. I knew I had to act to stop this before it went any further. "We should go home," I said, trying to steady my voice. "This isn't right, Bella. We can't let this happen." She paused, lowering her head slightly, and whispered with regret, "I'm sorry, Dad. I didn't mean to make you uncomfortable." I took a deep breath, attempting to calm the storm of emotions inside me. "It's okay, baby," I said softly, though I knew it wasn't. "We just need to keep some distance." The drive home was silent, the air between us heavy with unspoken words. I knew things could never return to the way they were. A boundary had been breached, and though it wasn't crossed, everything had changed. When we arrived home, Bella walked straight to her room without a word. I stayed in the living room, staring at the familiar space that now felt foreign. The sadness in my heart made the home feel unrecognizable. A part of me wanted to go to her room, to talk and clear the air, but I knew it would only make things worse. I sat on the couch, my mind racing with memories of Bella as a child, her laughter, her playful energy, and my constant desire to protect her from harm. Now everything was different. Bella was an adult, no longer the innocent child I once knew. But I was her father, and my feelings for her should have ended there. That night, sleep eluded me. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, my mind consumed with questions. What had brought us to this point? Had I done something wrong in raising her? By morning, the heaviness in my chest hadn't lifted. Bella came downstairs, dressed and ready to leave for school. "I'll be heading back soon," she said, her voice calm but carrying an undercurrent of unease. I nodded, unsure of what to say. "Maybe that's for the best," I replied, struggling to keep my tone steady. "We need some space." She looked at me with sorrow in her eyes but said nothing. Bella gathered her belongings and was ready to leave within minutes. I stood at the doorway, watching as she walked to her car, my heart heavy. "Have a safe trip," I said, my voice catching in my throat. She turned back, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "Thank you, Dad," she whispered before getting in her car and driving away. I stood there, watching her car disappear down the street, feeling the weight of everything that had changed between us. The drive was gone, and the house felt strangely empty and silent. It was as if the entire space had lost a part of its essence, and I couldn't shake the feeling that I had irretrievably lost something too. I understood that distance would give us both time to reflect, to process and sort through our emotions. Yet, I couldn't ignore the reality that things had spiraled out of control, leaving me unsure if our relationship could ever truly return to what it once was. In the weeks that followed, I tried to resume a sense of normalcy, but nothing felt the same. The house was eerily quiet without Bella's presence, and thoughts of her filled my mind constantly. I found myself revisiting that moment, her eyes lingering in my memory, and though I wanted to believe that time and distance would ease the pain, deep down I knew the truth. Once something changes, it can never truly go back. A fracture had formed between Bella and me, and despite our best efforts, we couldn't return to the way things were before. One quiet weekend afternoon, a text arrived from Bella. She shared that she was working through her conflicting emotions, acknowledging that things weren't right and that she needed time to think. As I read her words, I felt a mixture of sadness and relief. Bella needed time, and so did I. Perhaps with enough distance and reflection, we could find a way to repair our bond. With a heavy sigh, I set my phone aside and gazed out the window. The city skyline remained tranquil in the distance, but my heart was far from at peace. I realized that only time could answer the questions neither Bella nor I were ready to confront. This experience taught me an important lesson about respecting the boundaries within family relationships. As parents, we have a duty to provide unconditional love and care for our children, but we must also understand that this love should come with respect and appropriate boundaries. Relationships can evolve over time, and it's natural to feel moments of confusion. However, it is crucial to stay grounded and establish clear lines that should not be crossed. I would urge every parent or anyone navigating close relationships to be mindful of their responsibilities. Do not let emotions blur the lines between father and child, mother and child, or any other connection. Small moments left unaddressed can lead to larger cracks that are incredibly difficult to mend. The most valuable lesson I've learned is to be wise, to recognize what is right and wrong, and to know when to step back before things spiral out of control. Respecting boundaries is the only way to protect the most important relationships in our lives.